Have you ever noticed that money feels heavy, even when nothing is technically wrong? You're earning. You're saving. You're not making big mistakes. So why does money still follow you into your thoughts? Why does every decision feel loaded? Every paycheck feel temporary, and every sense of relief fade so quickly? What if the problem was never how much money you make, but how much mental space money is quietly taking from you? And what if the way you think about money is the very thing keeping you stuck? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may finally understand why money feels so heavy and what's actually missing. What if the reason money feels heavy in your life has nothing to do with how much you earn, how hard you work, or how disciplined you are? What if the real problem is something far more uncomfortable, something almost no one talks about, that even very capable, responsible people never realize they're trapped inside? In a city like Singapore, this question matters more than most people are willing to admit. You live in one of the most efficient, competitive, and expensive environments in the world. You do what you're supposed to do. You plan. You're careful. You avoid obvious mistakes. From the outside, your financial life looks fine. And yet, money never truly leaves your mind. Not in a dramatic way. Not in panic. But quietly, constantly, persistently. You think about money when you wake up. You think about it while making everyday decisions. You think about it even when nothing is technically wrong. And that's the part no one prepares you for. The mental weight of money when you're doing everything right. Most people assume this pressure means they're behind, or irresponsible, or not disciplined enough. But what if that assumption is completely wrong? What if the stress you feel isn't a personal failure, but a structural one? Many of us grew up absorbing mixed, conflicting messages about money. Be careful, but be ambitious. Save, but spend to stay motivated. Avoid risk, but don't fall behind. Those messages don't cancel each other out, they stack. And over time, they create a silent internal conflict that no budgeting app can fix. This is why earning more often doesn't bring relief. It just raises the stakes. More responsibility, more pressure, more mental load. You don't feel richer, you feel watched by your own finances. Welcome to Financial Awakening. If you're here, it's likely because some part of you already senses this truth. Money doesn't feel heavy because you're bad at it. It feels heavy because you were never taught how money should actually exist inside your life. No one taught you how money should flow. No one taught you how it should be organized. No one taught you how to separate survival, growth, and peace. So instead, money lives everywhere at once, in your thoughts, your decisions, your stress, your identity. And when money has no structure, it takes space wherever it can. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. People who feel calm about money are not smarter, luckier, or more disciplined. They simply live inside a different financial structure. While most people manage money reactively, they design systems that decide for them. While most people rely on effort and control, they rely on clarity and separation. This channel is not about getting rich fast. It's not about hustle. It's not about chasing numbers. It's about understanding why money feels mentally heavy in real life, and how changing the structure behind it quietly changes everything else. If this perspective already feels uncomfortably familiar, subscribe to Financial Awakening. Your support allows us to continue creating calm, honest conversations about money that most people never hear, but deeply need. Before we go further, take a moment and reflect, then share in the comments. When did money first start feeling mentally heavy for you, and what do you think it quietly took away from your peace of mind? Your answer might help someone else realize they're not alone. In a place like Singapore, money problems rarely look dramatic. They look quiet, polished, responsible. On the surface, everything seems fine. You have a job, you pay your bills, you don't overspend, you might even save. And yet, something feels off. Money stays in your head longer than it should. You think about it while commuting, while resting, while planning the future. Not because you're reckless, but because every part of your life feels financially connected. Housing, healthcare, family, career progression, retirement. Every choice feels like it carries weight. And that weight slowly builds. This is the kind of financial pressure that doesn't come from crisis. It comes from constant calculation. Many people assume this tension is normal. They tell themselves this is just the price of living in a high-cost, high-performance environment, that if you want stability, you must accept mental strain. But that belief is precisely what keeps people stuck. The real problem isn't income. It isn't discipline. And it isn't intelligence. It's the absence of structure. When money has no clear structure, it asks you to think about it all the time. Every purchase becomes a decision. Every decision becomes a test. And every test slowly drains your energy. You might not feel broke, but you feel tired. You might not be failing, but you don't feel secure. Over time, this creates a dangerous loop. Because when money occupies too much mental space, it quietly reshapes behavior. You delay decisions. You avoid risks. You second-guess yourself. You choose what feels safe instead of what actually moves you forward. Not because you lack courage, but because your mind is already overloaded. This is why so many capable, hardworking people feel financially stuck even as they progress professionally. Their external life moves forward, but their internal system stays fragile. In Singapore especially, the pressure to get it right makes this worse. People are taught to avoid mistakes, avoid debt, avoid instability, but no one teaches how to design a system that reduces thinking altogether. No one teaches how to let money operate quietly in the background. So people rely on vigilance instead. They stay alert, careful, responsible, until that responsibility becomes a burden. Money was never meant to be something you constantly manage in your head. It was meant to be organized once and then trusted. Without structure, money becomes emotional. It reacts to fear. It amplifies uncertainty. It turns small choices into heavy ones. And when that happens, life starts to feel narrower. You stop thinking in years. You start thinking in weeks. Sometimes in days. The shift begins when you realize this pressure isn't a personal flaw. It's a design flaw. And design can be changed. Not by earning more, not by trying harder, but by building a structure that removes money from the center of your attention, so you can put your focus back where it belongs, on growth, relationships, and direction. Most people never fail with money because they make terrible decisions. They fail because they are forced to make too many decisions. This is the quiet truth few talk about. In Singapore, you are taught to be responsible with money. Track spending, avoid mistakes, plan carefully. On the surface, this sounds correct. But over time, responsibility without structure turns into mental overload. When every financial choice requires attention, willpower, and judgment, even disciplined people burn out. This is where the idea of money as a tool becomes critical. A tool is not something you think about constantly. A tool is something you design once, then use repeatedly. You don't wake up every morning wondering whether your phone will work. You don't debate whether your calendar should exist. These systems are built to remove friction from your thinking, not add to it. Money should work the same way. But for most people, money isn't a tool, it's a question mark. Every paycheck raises new questions. Every expense triggers hesitation. Every opportunity feels risky, not because the person lacks knowledge, but because there is no system guiding the decision. This is why advice alone rarely helps. Telling someone to spend less or invest smarter assumes they already have a framework to plug those actions into. Without that framework, advice becomes noise. People try harder, not clearer. Wealthy individuals think differently here, not because they are smarter, but because they organize money at the system level. They separate decision-making from emotion. They design flows, not reactions. They know exactly what each dollar is meant to do before it arrives. In a high-cost environment like Singapore, this difference is everything. When housing is expensive, healthcare is essential, and long-term planning matters, reacting to money in real time creates stress. Structure removes that stress by deciding in advance. When income comes in, it already has a role. Taxes are accounted for, living costs are contained, growth is assigned. There is no debate, no second guessing, no mental tug of war. This doesn't mean life becomes rigid. It becomes lighter. Because once structure exists, freedom increases. You stop thinking about money daily. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop feeling guilty for spending or anxious about saving. Money moves quietly in the background, doing what it was designed to do. The real shift happens when you realize this isn't about control. It's about trust. You trust the system you built. You trust the boundaries you designed. And because of that trust, your mind becomes available again. For learning, for relationships, for opportunities you couldn't see before because money was always in the way. This is why financial progress often feels sudden from the outside. People think wealth appears quickly. In reality, clarity appeared quietly first. And clarity always begins with structure. Once structure is in place, something subtle but powerful begins to change. Your relationship with effort. Most people believe progress comes from trying harder. More discipline, more sacrifice, more hustle. In a high-performing society like Singapore, this belief is deeply ingrained. From school to career, effort is rewarded, so it feels natural to apply the same logic to money. But this is where many people quietly break. Effort without leverage eventually turns into exhaustion. Leverage is not about shortcuts or risk-taking. It's about allowing systems to multiply your actions instead of draining you. When your money has structure, effort stops being reactive and starts becoming directional. Every action you take begins to compound instead of resetting back to zero. This is why two people with similar income can live completely different financial lives. One keeps pushing, the other keeps progressing. The difference is not motivation, it's credibility. In Singapore, credibility matters. Institutions trust people who are consistent. Banks favor those who are predictable. Opportunities flow toward individuals who demonstrate stability, not chaos. Financial structure quietly builds this credibility over time. When your money is organized, your behavior changes. You pay obligations on time. You don't panic under pressure. You don't overreact to short-term fluctuations. From the outside, you appear calm, reliable, low risk. This perception compounds. Suddenly, access improves, better financing terms, better partnerships, better opportunities, not because you asked for them aggressively, but because your financial behavior signaled readiness. This is the invisible advantage most people never connect to money management. They think structure is about restriction. In reality, structure is what allows leverage to appear. Without it, every decision costs energy. With it, decisions become automated, and energy is freed for growth. But here is the uncomfortable part. Structure eventually forces honesty. Once money is clearly organized, excuses disappear. You can no longer blame confusion, bad timing, or external pressure. You see exactly what is working and what isn't. This clarity can feel confronting at first. Many people avoid structure because deep down, they fear what it might reveal. But this is also where change becomes possible. Because once the truth is visible, progress stops being emotional. You no longer rely on hope or fear. You rely on data, boundaries, and intentional action. You stop chasing every opportunity and start choosing the right ones. In a city that moves fast, this is rare. Most people are busy but directionless. Structured individuals move slower but with precision. Over time, precision always outperforms speed. This is the moment where financial awakening truly begins. Not when you earn more, not when you learn more, but when your actions align with a system that supports you instead of fighting you. Leverage is not something you find. It's something you build, quietly, once structure is in place. At some point, every person reaches a quiet moment of truth. Not a crisis. Not a breakdown. Just a subtle realization that something cannot continue the same way anymore. You may still be functioning, paying bills, showing up to work, doing what's expected. On the surface, life looks fine, but underneath, money continues to occupy more mental space than it should. It follows you into your evenings, into your weekends, into decisions that should feel simple. This is the cost most people never calculate. Not the cost of spending. Not the cost of debt. But the cost of carrying money mentally. Every single day. In Singapore, this weight often hides well. High efficiency, strong systems, constant motion. People learn to cope quietly. They normalize pressure. They tell themselves this is just how adult life works. But here's the truth. When money constantly sits in your mind, it's not motivating you. It's draining you. And no amount of income can fix that if the structure underneath remains unchanged. Real financial change doesn't begin with ambition. It begins with honesty. The willingness to admit that what you've been doing may be responsible, but not sustainable. That control without clarity creates anxiety, not safety. That effort without direction slowly erodes confidence. This is the moment that separates people who repeat cycles from those who exit them. Because the decision to change is rarely dramatic. It's quiet, private, almost unnoticeable to others. It happens when someone stops asking, "How can I make more?" and starts asking, "Why does money still feel heavy, even when I'm doing everything right?" From that question, a different path opens. A path where money is no longer the center of your attention, but a tool that supports your life instead of dominating it. Where decisions feel calmer, where progress feels lighter, where you don't need to constantly monitor yourself just to feel safe. This isn't about perfection. It's about relief. Relief comes when money has boundaries. When systems replace constant decision-making. When clarity replaces mental noise. And when your energy is no longer spent managing fear, but building stability. The most powerful shift isn't external. It's internal. You stop reacting. You stop rushing. You stop living one paycheck, one decision, one worry at a time. Instead, you begin to move with intention. That's what financial awakening actually looks like. Not wealth as status. Not money as identity. But money finally taking its rightful place, supportive, structured, and quiet. If this video resonated with you, it's not because you lack knowledge. It's because you're ready for a different relationship with money. One that gives you back your mental space. At the end of the day, money is rarely the real problem. The real issue is how much space it quietly takes inside your mind. Most people believe financial stress comes from not earning enough, not saving enough, or not being disciplined enough. But what truly exhausts people is living without structure. When money has no clear place, every decision feels heavier than it should. Every purchase carries doubt. Every paycheck brings relief that fades too quickly. The deeper lesson here is simple but uncomfortable. Clarity creates calm, not control. You don't need to obsess over every dollar. You need a system that decides for you before emotions step in. When money is structured, it stops demanding attention. It stops following you into your thoughts. And slowly, your mental space begins to return. To apply this in real life, start small, separate your money with intention. Decide in advance what each portion is meant to do. Reduce the number of decisions you make around spending. Let structure carry the weight instead of your mind. Financial peace isn't about becoming rich. It's about no longer feeling mentally crowded by money. Before you go, here's a simple question. What part of money causes you the most mental stress right now? Please share your thoughts in the comments so others can learn from your perspective. And if this video helped you see money differently, consider subscribing to Financial Awakening to support the channel and help us create more meaningful content like this.